This week's episode is sponsored by Patreon supporter Amelia Sapphire, who requested a look at the history of Transformers with multiple alternate modes. Regular Cybertronians can usually only transform into one thing at a time, and need to scan a new alternate mode if they want to change what they turn into. But some have the special ability to change into two or more distinct alternate modes without having to rescan in between. The first, most famous, and most numerous kind of robot with this skill were the Triple Changers. As the name implies, Triple Changers have three separate modes, robot and two alternate modes. Whether vehicle, beast, weapon, or anything in between, the two modes are usually designed to let the Triple Changer operate in different environments. Usually one is ground-based, and the other lets them fly, but that's not a hard and fast rule. The Triple Changer name and concept originated in 1984, in the Japanese toy line Diaclone. This year, two figures with this special three-way transformation feature were released. The Jet Fighter type, which converted into a MiG-25 jet plane and a Type 74 tank, and the Helicopter type, which turned into a jet fighter and an Apache helicopter. One further figure, which transformed into a space shuttle and a JRN Class 51 steam train, was designed, but it wasn't released. This unproduced space shuttle figure and the jet fighter type were both licensed by Hasbro, who released the pair in 1985 as part of the second year of the Transformers toy line, even reusing the Triple Changer name from Diaclone. Both figures were released as Decepticons. The jet fighter type became Blitzwing, while the space shuttle became Astrotrain. To complement these two figures, four further brand new Triple Changers were then designed for the 1986 toy line. One Decepticon, Octane, a fuel tanker truck and jetliner, and three Autobots, Springer, a futuristic car and helicopter, Broadside, an aircraft carrier and jet fighter, and Sandstorm, a dune buggy and search and rescue helicopter. These six figures were the only ones sold under the Triple Changer name in the original toy line, and they remain the most famous examples of the concept, with new toys of all six having been made in the decades since the originals were released. But while they were the first, they're far from the only three-mode Transformers out there. Even in the original series, there were several other toys with three modes that weren't officially marketed as part of the Triple Changer range. For example, the Horrorcons, the various Autobot and Decepticon cities, and the Power Master Mercenary Double Dealer. And many more have been produced in subsequent series, from the Beast era to the live-action movies and beyond. The ability of a toy to convert between three modes is one of the most popular and enduring play gimmicks in the Transformers franchise. And while the name Triple Changer has a history of being used a bit haphazardly, officially applied only to some of these toys, but not to others, that doesn't really matter. Fans have pretty much always called any robot with three modes a Triple Changer, and not many people are seriously going to argue with you if you do. But Triple Changers were only the beginning. Over the years, building on the concept that they had introduced, more multi-changing Transformers toys would be created that had even more modes than three. Characters like Atlas from Transformers Zone, Optimal Optimus from Beast Wars, and Shockwave from Transformers Animated had four modes apiece, while the Six Changers, like Decepticon Weapon of Mass Destruction Six Shot, and his Autobot son Quickswitch had six forms each. But top of the heap is Megatron from 2001's Robots in Disguise. He initially had six modes: Robot, Two-Headed Dragon, Jet, Bat, Dragster, and Giant Hand. But when he was upgraded into Galvatron, he gained four more: Hydrofoil, Mammoth, Pteranodon, and Griffin, for 10 total, making him the Transformers toy with the single largest number of alt modes currently on record. Now, at times, media will depict a Transformer with multiple alternate modes, but their toys will still only have one. For instance, Autobot Samurai Drift from the 2014 live-action movie Age of Extinction triple changed into both a helicopter and a Bugatti Veyron sports car on screen. But the sheer complexity of live-action movie character designs has meant that no triple-changing toys of him have been released, with separate figures instead being made for his car and copter modes. The same was true of Shatter and Dropkick, the triple-changing Decepticon villains of 2018's Bumblebee movie, and the Autobot heroes of Rescuebots and its sequel series, Rescuebots Academy, who all acquired at least 3 forms. The standouts were Heatwave, who over the course of the series gained Firetruck, Boat, and Brontosaurus forms, and Hotshot, who could become an ATV, a jet, a hovercraft, and a fire engine for 5 modes total. Some stories even feature rare examples of Transformers with the power to turn into anything they want at any time. More on them in a minute. So, what makes these Transformers special? Why can they assume multiple modes when most Cybertronians can't? Well, the original series didn't offer any explanation. Oddly, beyond a note in Blitzwing and Astrotrain's profiles that said they could transform faster than other Transformers, classic media didn't treat the Triple Changers' powers as anything strange or unusual, and provided no origin for them. Japanese media kept it vague, depicting 6 Changers as having somehow simply learned to transform into multiple forms through years of study with the mysterious ninja Transformer clan, the 6 Clan, their changeable bodies reflecting a mercurial nature that made them prone to switching sides. Later series would explore a variety of different methods by which regular Transformers could gain additional modes. For example, in Beast Wars, exposure to unearthly energies mutated the bodies of some Transformers, endowing them with extra modes. In Transformers Animated, this series' version of Blitzwing was physically rebuilt into a triple changer, but he was driven insane by the process, winding up with multiple personalities, one for each mode. In Rescuebots, a bot needed only to go through a preparatory period of meditation and concentration to gather the strength needed to scan an additional mode. While in Rescuebots Academy, the young Rescuebot recruits acquired multi-changing abilities by upgrading themselves with ancient technology known as multicogs. But perhaps the most notable look at the origins of multi-changing was provided by Dreamwave Productions comic books. In this series, the ability to assume multiple alternate modes was presented as a rare genetic trait, naturally possessed by only a small number of Transformers, encoded deep in their sparks from the moment of their creation. Blitzwing was the first to manifest the power, when his body began spontaneously mutating, growing the parts of a second alternate mode. Fascinated by the potential this mutation held to advance the evolution of the Transformer race, Decepticon scientist Shockwave studied Blitzwing and learned how to replicate the process in other Transformers with the required genetic potential, Decepticons and Autobots alike, creating the other original Triple Changers. The comics intended to introduce Six-Shot as another product of Shockwave's experiments, but Dreamwave went out of business before the story could be told. This idea of multi-changing as a rare genetic ability was notably revisited in the 2010s as part of the Aligned continuity. This universe introduced a breed of multi-changing Transformers known as Shifters, who were able to transform into any form they wanted, able even to duplicate the appearance of other robots. These Transformers, who included the Decepticon spies Makeshift and Pseudo, had inherited this ability from Amalgamus Prime, one of the legendary 13 primes from Cybertron's primordial past, who were the templates on which the Cybertronian race was based. Amalgamus was the first Cybertronian with the power to transform, able to assume any shape he desired, and it was from him that all Transformers inherited a simplified version of his shape-changing power. The Shifters, however, inherited the full extent of his infinite transformation ability. And while it's never been directly stated, if the Shifter's abilities are the result of their close genetic connection to Amalgamus, perhaps we can assume that the Triple Changers, Six Changers, and other multi-changing Transformers share a diluted version of that same genetic link. Now, to wrap up, let's bring things full circle. Remember that helicopter Triple Changer from Diaclone? Well, even though the toy wasn't released as a Transformer, it has still made it into Transformers media. In 2002, the robot appeared in Dreamwave's War Within comic book as a Decepticon named Fumes, while in 2016, stories from the Transformers Collectors Club featured two characters based on it: silent but brutally efficient Decepticon Rotorbolt and amnesiac Autobot Skyclick. From 3 modes to 3 bots with 3 names, a true triple changer if ever there was one. And those are the basics on Triple Changers, Six Changers, and all the rest. Thanks to Amelia for sponsoring this episode. If you could triple change, tell me in the comments what 2 alternate modes you'd pick. If you want more Transformers history and lore, subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about new episodes. Or get early access by supporting the show on Patreon.